Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I am here to help you today. I know you use this video to fall asleep, so before that, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what time are you watching? Now get comfortable and relax. Case 1. The Shafia family fled war and instability, hoping to build a new life in Canada. They were originally from Afghanistan, a country where traditions dictate fate and family honor outweighs personal freedom. On the surface, they appeared to be an ordinary immigrant family, a father who had achieved financial success, 2 wives and 7 children. But behind this image of prosperity lay a harsh reality. Control, fear, and strict discipline became an inseparable part of their lives. Until one day the family found itself at the center of one of the most shocking and tragic crimes in the country's history. Mohammed Shafia was born into a poor Afghan family. His father passed away when he was just 2 years old, leaving his mother to care for the household alone. From a young age, he understood that survival required resilience. Education was a luxury beyond his reach, so he started working early. At first, he helped his mother with household chores, then moved on to repairing appliances. Eventually, he realized there were other ways to make money, by buying and reselling goods at a profit. Mohammed's business quickly expanded. He dealt in electronics, furniture, and automobiles, constantly finding new ways to grow his wealth. Lacking formal education, he relied on his instincts and sharp business sense to seize every opportunity. As his financial situation improved, he decided it was time to start a family. Rona came from a respected and well-off background. Her family valued traditions, but also ensured their daughters received an education. She was raised in a nurturing environment, yet her future was already determined. Like most young women in her social circle, she was expected to marry whomever her parents chose for her. When her parents announced that she would be marrying Mohammed Shafia, she had no say in the matter. She accepted their decision as an obligation. The wedding was a grand affair, held at one of the finest hotels in Kabul, with hundreds of guests in attendance. To the outside world, it was a union between 2 honorable families, but no one asked Rona what she truly wanted. After the wedding, her life changed drastically. She was now expected to obey her husband, manage the household, and fulfill all of his expectations. Years passed, but no children were born into the marriage, and Rona's position in the family became uncertain. In Afghan society, a woman's worth is often tied to her ability to have children. Mohammed grew increasingly frustrated, and rumors about Rona's inability to conceive began spreading among relatives. Over time, his frustration turned into cold indifference, creating a distance between them that only grew wider. After 7 years in a marriage without children, Mohammed made the decision to take a second wife. Tuba was younger, more obedient, and most importantly, able to give him heirs. As soon as she became his wife, she gave birth to their first son, followed by another child. With each passing year, her influence in the household grew, while Rona was pushed further into the background of family life. Mohammed Shafia established strict rules in his household, where everyone was expected to follow his will. No one dared to challenge him, and any disobedience was met with humiliation or physical punishment. He controlled the finances, made decisions for all family members, and demanded absolute respect. The women in the home existed strictly within the boundaries he set. Tuba didn't just support these rules, she reinforced them. She fully embraced the role of the primary wife, completely overshadowing Rona. Her authority in the house became absolute. She managed the children, the finances, and even Rona's fate. Over the years, her treatment of the first wife became even harsher. She isolated her, limiting her interactions with the children, and denying her even the most basic personal freedoms. Hamed, the eldest son, became an enforcer of control over his sisters. From an early age, he was raised in an environment that upheld strict patriarchal traditions, where men were the leaders and women were expected to obey without question. His father instilled in him the belief that it was his duty to watch over his sisters, ensuring they followed the family's rules and reporting any perceived disobedience. The sisters, Zainab, Sahar, and Geethi, lived under constant surveillance. Any attempt to defy their father or Hamed resulted in punishment. They weren't allowed to make friends, leave the house freely, or even choose their own clothing. Mohammed didn't see them as individuals with their own aspirations. He saw them as an extension of the family, expected to uphold his idea of honor. When the family moved to Canada, many assumed this would give the children a chance at a better life, but even a change in country didn't alter the way the household operated. If anything, the control became even more rigid. Muhammad was aware that his children were now in an environment where women had rights, so he tightened his grip to maintain authority. The daughters began to realize that life outside their home was different from what they had always known. They saw their classmates interacting freely, choosing their own clothes, making decisions about their futures. But inside their own home, nothing had changed. Haim became even stricter. He monitored his sisters to ensure they didn't adopt Western habits. He checked their phones, observed their behavior at school, and reported everything to their parents. Rona had hoped that moving to a new country would change her circumstances, but her fate remained the same. She didn't know the language, had no legal documents, and no job. Without a passport or financial independence, she remained entirely under the family's control. Canada did not bring the Shafia family freedom. It became a new territory where their old rules still applied. Zainab, the eldest daughter of Muhammad Shafia, was the first to openly defy her family. Despite the strict control imposed on her, she secretly began a relationship with a young man named Ammar. He was older, of Pakistani descent, and most importantly, not someone her father would ever approve of. Their connection started with passing notes, then evolved into email exchanges, and eventually led to secret meetings. Zainab knew how dangerous her actions were. At home, she was constantly watched by Haim, and even at school, she couldn't feel safe. Yet, her love for Ammar made her willing to take the risk. When her father left for a business trip, she saw an opportunity and invited Ammar to the house, believing no one would find out. Haim Shafia accidentally noticed a pair of unfamiliar shoes in the hallway. Immediately realizing there was an outsider in the house, he wasted no time reporting it to his parents. Ammar managed to escape, but Zainab faced severe consequences. She was physically punished and confined to her room for several months, forbidden from stepping outside. While she remained in isolation, Sahar tried to fight for her independence in a different way. She didn't engage in open rebellion, but gradually distanced herself from the traditional expectations imposed by her family. At school, she removed her headscarf, wore makeup, and dressed in ways that were strictly forbidden at home. She also formed a close bond with Ricardo, a young man from Honduras, who was the complete opposite of the kind of husband her parents would have chosen for her. Sahar longed for freedom and seriously planned her escape. She and Ricardo discussed leaving for another country where her family wouldn't be able to find her. Her idea was to make it seem like she had gone to Honduras, while, in reality, she planned to cross into the United States. But one unexpected moment shattered her plans. One evening, she was having dinner at a cafe with Ricardo when she suddenly noticed her brother watching her from another table. He didn't say a word or approach her, but his presence alone sent a chilling message. She was now in serious danger. When she returned home, she braced herself for the worst. Her father already knew everything. There were no discussions, only punishment. After enduring physical aggression, she was forbidden from even attending school. Realizing that escaping could put her life at risk, Sahar understood that getting away from her family would be far more difficult than she had imagined. Amid all this turmoil, Giddy, the youngest of the sisters, expressed her defiance in a different way. She didn't try to run away or pursue a secret relationship. Instead, she acted out at school. Her aggressive behavior, frequent absences, and open defiance of teachers became her way of resisting. She wanted someone to notice that something was deeply wrong in her home. She was called to the principal's office, followed by a meeting with social services. But when her parents were invited to discuss the situation, they claimed that Giddy's behavior was the result of negative Western influence. They assured the social workers that they would handle the matter themselves. The daughters' attempts to resist the strict family rules only made their situation worse. Their father and brother became convinced that they had lost control over them, and that meant they had to be punished. The conflict between the sisters and their family had reached a breaking point. Their fate was now sealed. When Zainab, Sahar, and Giddy tried to break free from their family's control, they knew the risks involved. But they never expected that the very system meant to protect them would prove powerless against the authority of their father and brother. Zainab was the first to seek help. After months of confinement, she realized that her only chance for survival was to leave for good. She escaped from home and found refuge in a shelter for women in crisis. For the first time, she felt safe, but her disappearance did not go unnoticed. Ahmad immediately contacted the police, claiming that his sister had been kidnapped. He accused her friend Ammar, hoping to have him arrested. When the police located Zainab, she told them the truth. She had left on her own to escape her family. Law enforcement did not force her to return home, but they also failed to provide her with real protection. After seeing what happened to her sister, Sahar tried to find her own way out. She was too afraid to go directly to the police, but she made a call to Child Protective Services. She spoke about the harsh restrictions, the constant threats, and the fact that she feared for her life. The caseworkers listened, but in the end, they decided that intervention wasn't necessary since she was close to turning 18. They offered her temporary shelter, but that only meant one thing. Once her stay was over, she would have to go back home. She knew that if she returned, the punishment would be far worse than anything she had endured before. Terrified, Sahar declined their help. In that moment, she realized the system could not protect her. Rona was the only one who truly understood how much danger the sisters were in. But she was powerless to stop it. She too lived in constant fear. She knew that Muhammad and Tuba no longer saw their daughters as obedient members of the family. They saw them as a threat to the family's honor, and she understood that any attempt to intervene would be useless. After everything that had happened, it became clear within the Shafieh household that the daughters no longer followed the rules imposed on them. They had crossed the line. They had openly rejected the traditional way of life. Their actions were seen not just as defiance, but as a serious threat to the family's reputation. Muhammad couldn't allow rumors about his defiant daughters to spread among acquaintances. In Afghan culture, such stories traveled fast, and the family risked losing respect. What angered him the most was that their open disobedience was happening in Canada, a country where he couldn't control his daughter's surroundings the way he could back in Afghanistan. But to the family, the biggest threat came from Zainab. She hadn't just disobeyed. She had run away. That was unacceptable. She was living on her own, making her own choices, no longer following her father's rules. To them, this was the ultimate betrayal. Tuba knew that forcing her to return wouldn't work, so she devised a way to bring Zainab back willingly. She called her daughter and convinced her that their father had changed his mind. She told her that he had given his blessing for her to marry Ammar, and now they could officially be together. On May 18, 2009, a religious wedding ceremony took place at an Islamic center. The next day, Zainab had her hair styled and decorated her hands with henna. Her uncle drove her to a restaurant, and on the way, he made one final attempt to persuade her to reconsider the marriage. But her response was firm. That freedom, however, was short-lived. None of the groom's family members attended the ceremony. Ironically, they also disapproved of the marriage. Tuba was in tears, overwhelmed with embarrassment. She collapsed, fainting from the humiliation. People poured water on her, trying to revive her. Seeing this, Zainab threw herself into her mother's arms and said, "If you're against the marriage, I'll walk away from him." Zainab requested a divorce, and Ammar agreed. "I can't bring shame to my family," he said. The cleric declared them divorced right there in the restaurant. They had been husband and wife for only 24 hours. After the annulment, Zainab's relationship with Ammar Wahid deteriorated significantly. Under intense pressure from her family, she was forced to cut off all contact with him. The restrictions on her life became even stricter. Her movements were monitored, her interactions controlled. Ammar tried to stay in touch, but her relatives made it impossible. Eventually, their relationship ended completely, adding even more stress and emotional turmoil to Zainab's life. Zainab realized that she would never be given true freedom. She lost all hope of gaining independence. After this event, tensions between Zainab and her family escalated even further, ultimately leading to tragic consequences. This was the point of no return. If their father had previously hesitated, hoping his daughters would eventually recognize their mistake and conform, he now saw that they had no intention of returning to the family's rules. Hamid insisted that waiting any longer was not an option. In his view, betrayal could not be forgiven, and women who had tarnished the family's honor had to face consequences. He believed their father had been too lenient for too long, and if they didn't act immediately, the family's reputation would be in serious jeopardy. The decision was made. Their daughters would no longer have the right to live. Now, the only thing left was to plan how to carry it out. Muhammad didn't want to draw attention. He knew that a crime like this couldn't be impulsive. It had to look like an accident. And so the planning began, leading to an unthinkable tragedy. Preparations started weeks in advance. Muhammad, Tauba, and Hamid carefully discussed how to execute their plan. One of the key steps was acquiring a second vehicle, a Nissan Sentra. Officially, it was purchased for convenience, but in reality, it was intended to play a crucial role in what was about to happen. To avoid suspicion, they decided to organize a family trip to Niagara Falls. This would create the appearance of a family trying to reconnect after conflicts and tensions. A vacation together would give the impression that everything was fine and that they were working to mend their relationships. Zainab, Sahar, Jiddy, and Rona had no choice but to go. Even if they had doubts, resisting their father's decision was pointless. From the beginning of the trip, they felt uneasy, but none of them could have imagined that this journey would be their last. Everything went according to plan. For several days, the family visited tourist attractions, took photos, and engaged in casual conversations with strangers. It was all carefully orchestrated so that later, no one would suspect there had been any hostility between them. In the early hours of June 30th, 2009, two vehicles, a Nissan Sentra and a Lexus RX, left the Kingston East Motel and headed toward the Kingston Mills locks. Inside the Nissan Sentra were Zainab, Sahar, Jiddy, and Rona. The exact driver at that moment remains unknown, but it was most likely Zainab, as she was the eldest and had a driver's license. They were being followed at a short distance by Mohammed Shafia, Tuba, and their son Hamed in the Lexus RX. They kept enough space between the vehicles to avoid drawing suspicion. When the Nissan Sentra parked near the locks, Mohammed Shafia stepped out of his car and approached the Nissan. Zainab either voluntarily moved from the driver's seat or was forced to exit. Tuba then took the wheel of the Nissan, staying inside with the victims. This was done to keep them from suspecting anything. Seeing their mother beside them, they felt no immediate danger. Meanwhile, Mohammed and Hamed returned to the Lexus and drove to a nearby motel, where they planned to create the illusion that the family was simply stopping for the night before continuing their trip. At the motel, they woke the manager and rented 2 rooms, but their responses about the number of guests were inconsistent. They couldn't decide whether there were 6 or 9 people in their group, which raised suspicions. After dropping off the 3 youngest family members, Mohammed and Hamed got back into the Lexus and returned to the locks. As soon as Tuba saw their headlights in the darkness, she quickly got out of the Nissan and ran toward them. This was the signal the time had come. At this moment, the women inside the car were still alive, unaware that they were trapped in a deadly situation. What happened next could only be partially reconstructed during the investigation. It remains unclear whether the victims were harmed inside the car or outside of it. However, forensic evidence revealed crucial details. 3 of them, Rona, Jiddy, and Zainab, had sustained head injuries, likely inflicted to render them unconscious before they were submerged. Sahar, however, appeared to have resisted. There were no signs of head trauma on her body, suggesting that she may have remained conscious longer than the others. One by one, the victims were either drowned in the water or placed inside the car after losing consciousness. Their bodies were then repositioned in the Nissan. The front seats were reclined to accommodate them. At this stage, Mohammed, Tuba, and Hamed began staging the scene to make it appear like a tragic accident. Their plan was to send the vehicle into the water, making it seem as if it had rolled in by mistake. One of them started the engine, shifted the car into neutral, and exited, expecting the Nissan to roll into the canal on its own. But something went wrong. The car got stuck on the edge of the concrete ledge. The front wheels had gone over, but instead of plunging into the water, the vehicle remained suspended in place. This was a major setback. If anyone had appeared at that moment, they would have been caught at the scene. One of them reached through the open driver's window and turned off the ignition. They realized that the Nissan wouldn't go into the water without additional force. The only way to complete the plan was to use the Lexus to push the Nissan into the canal. They got into the Lexus, accelerated, and rammed the Nissan from behind. The impact was strong. The SUV's left headlight shattered, leaving fragments at the scene. With that final push, the Nissan Sentra plunged into the water, taking the 4 women with it. Believing their crime was now complete, they began covering their tracks. They attempted to pick up the broken pieces of the Lexus's headlight, but couldn't gather them all. Then, they quickly left the scene and returned to motel to create the illusion that they had spent the night there and knew nothing about the disappearance. Early on the morning of June 30th, 2009, a Kingston Canal worker noticed something unusual. Beneath the water, he could see the roof of a submerged car. The man immediately contacted the authorities. Emergency responders and divers arrived at the scene. When they pulled the vehicle from the water, they discovered the bodies of 4 women inside. None of them had attempted to escape. There were no broken windows, no signs of anyone trying to open the doors. It wasn't long before authorities identified the victims, 3 sisters and their relative. Zainab Shafia was found in the front passenger seat, her head tilted forward. Her black cardigan, soaked after hours underwater, was on backward. Her younger sister, Sahar, was in the back of the sunken Nissan Sentra. Jitty's lifeless body floated above the driver's seat, one arm resting on the headrest. The window next to her was fully open. Rona was hunched in the middle of the back seat. She wasn't wearing a seatbelt. None of them were. The initial inspection of the car immediately raised questions. The vehicle was in first gear, but the engine was off. The keys were still in the ignition. The seatbelts were unused, which was strange. People instinctively grab onto something in an emergency, but here there were no signs of struggle. At the same time, 3 people walked into the Kingston police station: Mohammed Shafia, his wife Tauba, and their son Hamed. They reported that 4 women were missing. Their story was simple. The women had taken the car keys during the night and left without permission. They claimed the most likely explanation was that they had tried to run away, but something had gone wrong. At first, the story seemed believable. The family explained that Zainab and Sahar had often shown defiance and clashed with their parents. If they had indeed attempted to run away, they might have panicked, lost control of the vehicle, and accidentally driven into the water. However, the first pieces of evidence quickly cast doubt on this version. First, the location of the car. The Kingston Canal was not a road, a highway, or even a place where someone could end up by accident. It was a controlled waterway system, and reaching it without knowing the area was nearly impossible. Second, the condition of the bodies. If the women had been alive when the car entered the water, they would have undoubtedly tried to escape. But there were no signs of struggle, no scratches on the windows, no attempts to open the doors. This led investigators to question the family's account. The theory of an accidental crash was beginning to fall apart. At the same time, detectives started reviewing statements from the staff at the motel where the Shafia family had stayed. It turned out that no one had seen the women leaving the building. Surveillance cameras did not record them exiting. The suspicions deepened. Someone was clearly lying. Police continued their investigation without rushing to conclusions. But even at this early stage, it was clear. This was not just a tragic accident. It was a carefully planned crime staged to look like one. During questioning, Mohammed, Tauba, and Haim struggled with details. At first, they claimed the women had left during the night. But when asked for the exact time, none of them could provide a clear answer. Their statements about when they supposedly left kept changing. Haim insisted that he had been asleep and hadn't heard anything, while Tauba claimed there had been noise in the house that night. Later, she added that she had woken up and seen the women leaving, only to contradict herself by saying she didn't remember. Mohammed initially stated that he had been in a different motel room at the time, but security footage showed otherwise. Police conducted a thorough examination of the car found in the water. At the scene, they discovered fragments of broken headlights. However, these fragments did not belong to the submerged vehicle. This meant that another car had been present and could have played a role in the incident. Forensic experts took a closer look at the front of the family's Lexus SUV. The damage patterns on the vehicle matched the broken fragments found at the scene. Further analysis revealed that the Lexus had dents and impact marks consistent with a collision with another car. These findings confirmed a new theory. The victims had not simply been left in the vehicle, they had been deliberately pushed into the water. Investigators knew they needed stronger evidence. They decided to place a listening device in the Shafia family's vehicle, hoping the suspects would incriminate themselves. A few days later, the police got exactly what they were looking for. The recordings captured conversations in which Mohammed openly expressed satisfaction with what had happened. He stated that his daughters had brought shame to the family and that honor had been restored. Tuba supported his words, saying they had done what was necessary. Hamed, meanwhile, repeatedly insisted that their actions had been justified. These recordings became key pieces of evidence. They proved that the crime had been premeditated and that the family had deliberately taken the lives of 4 women. The evidence left no room for doubt. The police were now ready to make their move. Mohammed Shafia, his wife Tuba, and their son Hamed were arrested on July 22, 2009. That day, they had no idea that law enforcement had already gathered enough proof to charge them. The family was preparing to fly to Dubai, but they were taken into custody just before departure. Mohammed never saw it coming. Until the last moment, he believed that the deaths of his daughters and Rona had been successfully staged as an accident. But the investigation had stayed one step ahead. When they were read their charges, first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder, They tried to remain composed, but their expressions told a different story. The trial began in January 2012. It lasted 3 months and drew enormous public attention. Prosecutors presented undeniable evidence that the crime had been meticulously planned. The most damning evidence was the recorded conversations in the family's vehicle. In them, Mohammed proudly stated that his daughters had gotten what they deserved, while Tuba and Hamd fully supported this sentiment. These recordings shattered any remaining doubts about their guilt. In addition to the recordings, physical evidence was presented. Investigators demonstrated that the family's Lexus had damage consistent with a collision involving the Nissan Sentra. Experts confirmed that the SUV had been used to push the victim's car into the water. Witnesses were called to testify, social workers, teachers, and friends of the sisters, who revealed that they had spoken about the harsh treatment they faced from their father and brother. Many knew they lived in fear, but no one could have imagined it would end in such a horrific way. During the trial, Mohammed showed no remorse. He insisted that the court had misinterpreted the situation and continued to claim that his daughters had brought shame to the family. Tuba, who initially portrayed herself as a grieving mother, later changed her strategy and began denying any involvement. Hamd attempted to present himself as a victim of his father's influence, but the recorded conversations completely dismantled his defense. After 15 hours of deliberation, the jury delivered its verdict, guilty. Mohammed, Tuba, and Hamd were sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years. They appealed, hoping the ruling would be overturned, but the court upheld the conviction. Their crime was classified as an act of so-called honor-based violence, a cold and calculated crime carried out in the name of control and tradition. The family that had once sought to preserve its honor lost everything. Their names became synonymous with cruelty, and the Shafia case remains one of the most horrifying examples of such crimes in Canadian history. After the arrests of Mohammed, Tuba, and Hamd, the remaining Shafia children were left in a difficult situation. As they were still minors, they could not be left without guardianship. Canadian authorities placed them under state protection. Social services took responsibility for their well-being. Their identities and locations were kept confidential to protect them from public scrutiny and potential retaliation from extended relatives. Some family members in Afghanistan attempted to intervene, demanding that the children be returned to their biological relatives, but Canadian law shielded them from such claims. The younger Shafia children were given the opportunity to grow up away from the harmful environment they had known. They changed their names and started new lives, but their past was forever marked by a devastating tragedy. The fact that their parents and brother committed such a crime became a permanent shadow over them, something they could never fully escape. Their current whereabouts remain unknown, but one thing is certain: they were given a chance at a different life, unlike their lost sisters in Rona. Case 2. On the morning of May 25, 2012, 37-year-old Kujo Bonsafo Ajaikodi, an international student from Ghana, went out for a morning jog and never came home. Kujo has spent the last 6 months living with the family of one of his friends, Dr. Anthony Kenyua, a physics lecturer at Morgan State University, and when Kujo failed to return home that evening, the family grew concerned. That concern evolved into outright fear when the family discovered that Kujo's wallet, ID, and phone were still in the basement. Even if Kujo had decided to go out somewhere without telling the family, there was no chance he would have left these items behind. Feeling that something was wrong, the Kenyuas called the police. They had no idea just how wrong things were. Although the police responded immediately to the report and sent detectives over to interview the Kenyua family and search the property, nothing of note was found, apart from a dead fox in a container behind the Kenyua's home. This curious finding will later prove integral in the most sickening way. Eventually, cadaver dogs are brought in to go over the wooded area behind the Kenyua's home, but they find nothing. The only thing of note uncovered is the fact that red pepper flakes have been sprinkled on the ground in the house, specifically in the basement. This is another detail that will prove crucial later. It seemed like the case was rapidly getting cold, but an unexpected discovery was about to change everything. For days after Kujo's disappearance, Jared Kenyua, the youngest boy in the family, was down in the basement when he found something that made his blood run cold. After confronting his older brother Alex about it, Jared told the rest of the family what he'd found, and the police were once again quickly called to the scene. In an interview with detectives, Jared revealed the nightmare he found in the basement. 2 pans for baking, and in between them was a cutting board. So I lifted up the pans, and in it I saw 3 different objects, and they were kind of black with some gravy substance looking at them. And it looked like hands and a head. And as soon as I saw that, I really couldn't distinguish whether it was a face or somebody's face I knew or something. But I looked at it, and I stopped myself. I stopped what I was doing. I went upstairs, and I asked Alex, come down here. And I asked him, what is it? And he said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's none of your business and all that stuff. And he started avoiding my question. Alongside interviewing Jared, detectives also spoke with Alex about this disturbing and suspicious discovery. As Alex has read his rights, the interview hits a slight snag. Are you willing to talk to me after being advised of your rights? And that's, again, a yes or a no question. Same thing as the one on top. Okay, and then your notes are right there. Oh wait, you've got to read that last one. What this one says is, have I threatened you or forced you in any way to make you talk to me? Yes. Have I really, or yes or no? Yes. Do you think I did threaten you? Because I'm not trying to threaten you. I'm not threatening, but I'm just taking it as a yes. Well, tell me then, because I don't want you to feel that way. So if you feel that way, I want to make sure you know that I'm not threatening you, and I'm not trying to scare you or anything like that. I can't find a room in an undisclosed location with a behind a locked door with a CCTV. The door's not locked. No, I'm a detective. I don't know. I'm threatened right now. Okay, well, let me make you feel a little bit better then. The door is not locked, okay? I'm a detective. Well, I'm going to explain it to you, okay? We're not in an undisclosed location. We're in Forest Hill. It's about 20 minutes from where you live, okay? It's an industrial park, and the door's not locked. And I am not armed. I don't have a gun on me at all. You can see right there. And neither does that detective. Though there are different policies, it's typically recommended that officers aren't armed in the interrogation room. It helps calm the person being interviewed and prevents them from saying they were threatened or they were scared because the officer was armed. As well, officers don't want to wear a gun in order to lower the chance that someone takes it from them. Well, we come in with a few mines and weapons, though. Well, I can't take my mind away. There's no guns in here. Okay, so you understand I'm not trying to threaten you? Right. Okay. I'll sign that. Okay. Less than 10 minutes into the interview and Alex is already handling this differently than most people in this situation would. But is this strange behavior an indication that he knows something about Cujo's disappearance? Can you tell me what happened? Yes, last week I collected a jackal, foxes like roadkill. And I usually, trap animals. That's what sometimes I can catch, sometimes a jackal. But this morning I saw it's like a wild dog. I can give you a description for a wild dog. It's not a wild dog. It's like a coyote, bull-typed. It's like they have a foot on it. Maybe had like a less than an inch on their foot. But my cat was outside, and I just happened to be upstairs looking outside, and I seen a coyote. So I figured, you know what? I remember catching that fox that was roadkill. So I figured let me gut it up and, try and catch it. Alex continues to ramble about the wild dog for several minutes, derailing the conversation and giving the officers a lot of seemingly useless information. But there's actually a sneaky reason he's done this. You realize what your brother thought, though, right? Or thinks. He thinks that it's pieces of Cujo is what he thought. Did you realize he thought that? Or you didn't realize until I just said so? He said that he saw, it was something that was black, and he can't really describe it. And he said he wasn't sure. And he mentioned it to my father and mother. Okay, nothing but no human skull. Human what now? Skull, or human parts, or anything. Because he said there was a head. And I said, there's a jackal head right there. Coyote forks. And the paws and the insides. I couldn't bring the intestines in because they're already eating. So it's just parts of it. And besides, I wanted the skin to try and make like a dream catcher. Were they parts of Cujo? No. But the dogs that came out today that were searching and everything, I'm sure they'd have picked a scent, Alex is incredibly confident when he uses the cadaver dogs to assert his innocence. But why is he so sure the dogs won't pick up a scent in the basement? One obvious explanation actually has to do with the red pepper flakes that were found scattered throughout the floor of the basement. It's a commonly believed yet disproven myth that red pepper flakes can fool cadaver dogs into not smelling human remains. What they can do is potentially burn the dog's nose. But this would still not prevent them from indicating remains if there were any. However, as will later be uncovered, there is a far more sickening reason that the dogs didn't pick up on anything in the Quenua home. Still, it's entirely possible Alex believed the myth about red pepper especially given some of his self-recorded videos. Now the question is about planning and thinkable, because now how are the new powers going to use nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons? Sooner or later, the countryside is going to be torn in battlefields. It already is, and battlefields are slowly erupting. Protect your neck. Nobody is safe no matter where you are. It could be even in your own home. It could be even in your own school. It could be anywhere. Why would your brother think there were human parts? Because he's been around animals. He said you guys used to cut up animals back on the farm or something like that. We've cut up goats not far from here in Ohio. But he seems to think that what he saw tonight were human parts as opposed to animal. Well, I showed him the carcass that I actually had, so he's just confused, you think? Honestly, he's confused. He's very smart. Alex quickly steals a glance at the detectives after saying this, potentially trying to measure their reaction to his self-contradictory response. With Alex adamantly sticking to his story about the cut-up animal parts, detectives decide to switch gears. You know where Kudo's at? After he mentioned his case, because I remember several years ago he had a charge, I think it was something or not. I don't know the details specific. That's the only details. I don't know his case. And he never spoke about it even when he went to immigration. Alex's rambling can also be seen many times throughout his strange and disturbing vlogs. The sun in the sky. The sun is a very powerful energy. The solar flares it can deliver to this planet itself. It can knock out every electronics, every mechanical, electromechanical apparatuses around the world, even in the sky itself. Airplanes will not fly. Cell phone towers knocked out. In an attempt to deal with Alex's knack for rambling, the detectives decide to be direct with him. Alex, did you kill Kudo? No. Did you cut him up? No. Because you're interested to see what, you said you dissect these things surgically, did you? No. I've seen morticians do that. Right. I mean, because you have the curiosity to do it yourself? No. The curiosity, my curiosity, that's not the extent I thought. I've been exposed to body parts that are in the H. I've seen people's brains blown out. I've seen people dead and everything. Whatever. Where is that? My shock memories. On TV, you're saying? Shock memories. On TV? I don't know what you mean. Shock memories as a TV program? Shock memories, yeah. Some of them are on the internet. Sensing that they're not going to get anything useful from Alex, detectives end the interview and conduct a search of the Quinua home, completely unaware of the horror they were about to walk into. In the basement, officers retrieved the charred aluminum roasting pans that had allegedly had human remains in them. Not far from the pans were what appeared to be clippings of short, dark hair that had been wrapped in a paper towel and thrown in a wastebasket. In the laundry room, they find a roasting bag that could usually be used for poultry, scarred by the same charred residue seen on the pan and treated with an oily cleaner. In the room, they also found a camo t-shirt with what appeared to be bloodstains down the front. But this is only the beginning of the disturbing discoveries. Alex's bedroom is locked with a deadbolt and marked with a wooden sign reading, "Either some greater force of terror than death must be devised, or death will not be enough for coercion." Observe the sunlight. The shadows. The shadow. The cold shadow. In Alex's bedroom, officers find the shockumentaries he mentioned, as well as multiple leather whips, a large hunting knife, and 2 machetes. These discoveries are overshadowed by what the officers find next. On the underside of Alex's mattress is a massive bloodstain, one so large that officers immediately theorized that whoever the blood belongs to is almost certainly dead. While they weren't able to find the body parts that Jared claimed to have seen, everything else the officers found in the basement points towards Alex being involved in Kujo's death. Eager to find out the truth behind this mystifying case, detectives sat back down with Alex for another interview. His explanation for the blood is shocking, to say the least. You and I and Chris. Again, we're not here to get a confession from you or anything like that. One of the things that I ask you is I want to learn about you, right? Because let me explain why. There is psychology to that, and I'm going to tell you why. Because let's say that someone robs a bank, and I find out that this person has a wife that's dying of cancer. Is that the same as a guy that comes in wearing a mask and puts a gun in somebody's head because he wants to get a party out with that one? Are they the same two people? It's a crime. It's a crime. Already, this detective appears to be taking a more strategic approach than the previous detectives, setting the stage for a conversation that will make Alex actually want to confess. One way he does this is by quickly introducing the idea that committing a crime does not make someone evil. and that certain people may commit crimes for reasons that are morally justified. The officer doesn't believe this, but is saying it to try to get Alex to admit to something. Unlike in his last interview, however, the detectives are ready for his rambling. Do you know what forensic science is all about? I don't believe what the TV says too much about it. However, I'm aware that it's a lot of things for science. Do you believe that? Do you actually believe that an X-ray is an indicator to identify other individuals? You can get an X-ray because you have the XY chromosomes, and you can also identify, the GMO seeds from it. You can extract it, so you can tell the difference between the blood of a fox and the blood of a human being? Yes. What do you think the blood of your mattress should be? That's the blood of my period. Your period? Yeah, my woman's period. And what woman would that be? Oh, she doesn't say anymore. She said that the blood that was on the box, the red box, that's the fox blood there. What if I told you that wasn't? What if I told you that that was human blood? I have to show you exactly. Was it dried up, especially? There's a little bit of breath. Either that was fine in there, because I did have the fox there when my father saw me there. He told me to take that stuff out of the box. So he took it out because it was hot enough. So I took it out. So what did she say? It was controlled by the home president. He had a lot of tendency, I wouldn't necessarily say to be profound, but you can speak to every witness or even people, in the park. Well, I'm speaking to you because you know him very well. No, I did not. No, I did not. I knew of him. I did not know him at all. He never shared with me personal information about his life up until he got incarcerated. After that, he started talking to me. He came out, much more like someone different. And sentenced to 18 months in prison. Toward the end of his sentence, Cujo's visa was revoked, and he was sent to a federal facility in Texas. Dr. Quinoa, Alex's father, helped Cujo find legal representation. After his release, Cujo moved in with the Quinoas. Although Alex is stating that he doesn't know if Cujo is violent, that's not quite true. He referenced Cujo's case in the previous interview, and even went so far as to say that Cujo talked to the Quinoas about it. Do you know where Cujo is at? After he mentioned his case, because I remember several years ago, he had a charge. He mentioned something to my brother about the woman who got him in trouble, something like that. Alex seems to be downplaying Cujo's dark past, and it could be because he has an unsavory past of his own. So, you yourself were caught up in a situation not too long ago at college, where you were accused of an act of violence. Right. If I wasn't there, I don't know the circumstances behind it. Let me just break it down real quick. Sure, if you wanted to. Well, I could be the bodyguard right now. That's how I looked at it. I stayed with people who went to jeopardize our college experience, and also our education in the world. I just happened to be in the mix of it. I could have moved. I should have moved, actually. But because of that person and their behavior, which jeopardized my safety, bringing people I know to harm standing and pinpointing rumors on me, I'm not going to say rumors, clear threats. So, I had to defend my life. Did you stop the threat? I mean, definitely I don't. The only fact is that I went about it because I didn't go outside to look for him. He came to look for me. He came to our apartment. And he could have been off. And he is off sometimes. So your perception is you stopped the threat. He was a threat. And you had to stop that threat. I think that's a fair assessment. Thank you. Before Alex had returned home from college, right before Cujo's disappearance, he spent a few days behind bars. Police spoke with Alex's roommate, Devin Keyes, about Alex's strange behavior leading up to the incident. Hello, this is Devin. Hey sir, it's Detective Lane. So like I was telling you before, I wanted to talk to you about Alex. And you're his roommate on a daily basis? Yes sir. Okay. How long have you guys been living together? We've been in the same dorm for 2 years, but that was my first year actually living in the same room with him. Now, were you a friend to Alex, or you guys just lived together? Yeah, I was a friend of his. Okay. In the last couple years, had his behavior changed at all? His behavior started changing in, I'll say, about December or January of this last year. Okay. What kind of things did you see that made you think his behavior was changing? Well, he just started acting different. Did you ever see him have like a skeleton hand? Not a real skeleton, but like a medical skeleton type of thing? Yeah, he had one of those. He had one of those? Now, when did he start carrying that around? I'll say around March, maybe. Did he ever do anything in his rooms that were strange or out of the ordinary? He used to. He had weird videos that he used to watch, and then he would have like chanting books or something like that. Chanting books. I call them chanting books because they're not like normal. Well, I don't want to say normal religious books, but something kind of like voodoo, I guess. Voodoo kind of thing? Yeah. The videos you're speaking of, what kind of videos would they be? War videos like torture, stuff along that end. Other people who knew Alex also noticed a change in his behavior. Alongside carrying a medical skeleton around, Alex started going by the nickname Mufasa. The latter fact became known when an RA had responded to a situation in which someone going by the name Mufasa had broken a window in an apartment building. But this wasn't the incident that resulted in Alex's time in jail. The young man he assaulted down there at your dorm room, did him and that young man have a problem? Like, was there kind of tension between the two of them, or did it surprise you that he did that? It surprised me because, just the other couple days before it happened, they were just talking about regular stuff, and then that happened. In an exclusive interview with EW, Joshua Caesar, the man that Alex attacked, talks about his close call with death. I knew Kenya as an acquaintance. We both went to the same school together, Morgan State University. Joshua said that he was meeting a friend after graduation and decided to wait for her at the apartment where Alex also happened to live. And when I walked through that door, as soon as I crossed the threshold, I heard what I know to be God at this point now. Put your arm up. I felt something waving over me. And so I put my arm up, and underneath my arm, I could see a man standing there with a black sheet over his head, and I was knocked unconscious. The man in the black sheet was none other than Alex Kenua. Alex had attacked Joshua with a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire and chains. I woke up in the back of the house. Fortunately, Joshua's friends, Mac and Meriwether, were nearby to intervene before things took an even deadlier turn. Mac opened the door. He says, "Stay in here. Don't go anywhere." I said, "What happened?" He says, "Stay here." Then he closed the door. About a few seconds later, I hear a bunch of rumbling and commotion. I didn't know what was going on out there still to that time. Mac came back inside, and he said, "Come out." When I came out, there was blood all over the place. And I didn't realize at that time it was mine. With no memory of the attack, Joshua had to ask his friends about what happened that day. He said, "Well, Mac said we were playing a game when we heard a scream, a shriek. We ignored it. So Meriwether said, no, that didn't sound right, and opened the door, and he saw Kenya was standing over top of me with a knife. There was a struggle and a fight over my body. That noise and commotion I said that I heard in the restroom, I was waiting until Mac said come back out was them fighting off Kenya a second time from coming in to get back to me. Mac and Meriwether bravely fought off Alex until he fled to a nearby wooded area. He was found by campus police shortly after and charged with assault and reckless endangerment. After paying a bond of $220,000, Alex's family brought him home on May 23rd, 2 days before Cujo went missing. Joshua's injuries included a shoulder fracture and multiple skull fractures. He also lost sight in his left eye permanently. Joshua credits his survival to his friends that protected him from Alex and the campus police officers that kept him awake after losing so much blood. As horrific as the attack on Joshua was, it was far from the only incident involving Alex. Yeah, I beat up on your bed, and I jerked off, and I bust on it. You got something to say, man? You can look in on your bed. Hope you have a good night's sleep. BP on them freaks. Super freak, huh? You like them super freaks? Well, I got you on some over your bed. Playing games with me out here. Who's playing with you? Nobody's playing with you. Not that I don't have the respect to be calling you no more. So this whole thing happens to that bitch. You keep doing that shit again, that shit's gonna keep fucking happening. Listen, next time I see you with people like that, here's what's gonna happen. See your fucking clothes? Go look in your bed. Look, I left you a fucking surprise. That's just me. Devin also had some insight into this incident between Alex and a fellow Morgan State student. Are you familiar with something when Alex maybe went into somebody's bedroom, did something on their bed? Did you hear that story? Yes, I heard that story. Okay, who told you about that, Alex or somebody else? He told me. And what did he tell you? He said that somebody disrespected him, so he disrespected them in return. And did he tell you what he did? He went to the guy's bedroom and went on their bed. Did he tell you how they disrespected him in the first place? No, he wouldn't tell me that. Okay, do you think there really was an argument between him and that gentleman, or you think this is just something he was imagining? I would say it was something that he either imagined or he just took out of hand. It wasn't just Alex's friends who had to deal with his baseless accusations. And right now, I'm following somebody who I thought was watching over here, getting a phone call. Not even him. See right there? Oh well, that makes sense. Based on his self-recorded videos and the accounts from those who knew him, it seems like Alex's aggression was ramping up during March, April, and May of 2012 before finally culminating in the terrifying attack on Joshua Caesar. All of these incidents involve Alex taking extreme actions based on perceptions that have no basis in reality. Realizing that this could be a possible motivation for Alex to have killed Cujo, the detectives dive into trying to uncover the truth behind Cujo's disappearance. Nothing can prepare them for what Alex eventually reveals. The issue of Norman said, "That guy, you perceived him to be a threat." That's not true. You perceived him to be a threat. And then I asked you if Cujo was a threat. You initially, no. I don't really even know. Well, if he was involved in terrorist activities, if he was involved with bad people or bad things that were going on, and he's living at your parents' home, under their roof, with your siblings and yourself, how would you not say that he's not a threat? Like Cujo's case, as far as for him staying with our family, he stayed with our family before. He has done what he has to do. And that's when after he got arrested and all that, his behavior shifted. But you were so vague about that. No, what I mean is that his behavior has shifted as far as for how he went about his business. People can tell you much more, whether he was much more involved with people or less, or introverted. When you start connecting the pieces here, to me it made more sense that, he's trying to get himself back up on his feet. However, at the same time, he may not necessarily be doing that, He may have some other ulterior motives. And especially speaking to my mother, who mentioned earlier that he was having trouble going to the basement to use the washer and a scooter. He asked her if Cujo put his hands on him. And that's when I knew that something was wrong. And then I just went ahead and just fixed it. I didn't know something, but something had happened. I don't think anything happened. How do you feel about that? I don't feel nothing. It doesn't make you angry? Anger is a good thing too. Anger is something. However, don't get mad, get wise. So, could it be getting wise, stopping the threat? Stopping the threat could be something. The pain is coming. The pain is going. They couldn't believe it, but now it's flowing. They saw it. They got their mouths zipped up. Because they know when they up. It's going to get zipped up and thrown across the cut. The cut is sorted. The cut is sorted. Out the body. It's moving down. The mouth is so distorted. Listen, you are responsible for what happened to Cujo, as far as his doctors. Yeah. Why you committed that act, that caused that's what I need to understand. I do know that he has been manipulative and taken advantage of my father's good heart and my family's kindness. You're not going to stand for that. Is that clear? Right. And on top of that, he also gives up signs, like I say, classifiers, which I was hearing. Well, I don't know. I know how he acts and everything, because I have, in my bookshelf, some of the type of books and materials that I read. But with him, he sat directly next to my library, where I have those type of books there. And every time I notice, he would go to them, and he would look at me he would give me a certain look. He would give me a look like, he doesn't want me to find something, he's hiding something. So every time I would come down to his, he would rush to hide something. What is he hiding? What is he doing? Whenever I went to my room, my things were moving around, so he was definitely following me. Morning, please. Tell me what it was that put you at the top when you said, "This is it." I asked him. I asked who he put his hands on. I thought about it. I dreamt about it. So, was this something that you planned, or was it just very early in the night when you came in front of him? I didn't come in front of him. I told him already that, I'm coming. What did you say? I spoke to him briefly, arranged my Saturday room, made him take all his to work on, put all my stuff there, fixed up everything, and I just asked him some brief questions because he started working on it, all that, trying to work with his muscles and all that. I said, look, I don't fight, especially people who come to my family. I do something else. Tell me how you started it, what you did. I made this confession. So then, how did you kill him? I was after him. Now tell me how to do that, though. So basically I spoke to him. That was it. And then what did you do? After speaking to him, I chained him with a hatchet, chained him with a pipe. I don't know who it's a piece of. I don't know. I just don't know. But it could be anyone's family. My family. I could be where my family went. With this proclamation, Alex has fully admitted that he believes he killed Cujo in order to protect his family. I don't know the truth. So again, you are logical. You are a thought man, right? Who was there when you took his life? Just you and him? Because he can't talk. Just as the detectives start to make progress, things take a turn for the bizarre. I talk to dead people. Right now, I'm not interested in talking to anyone dead. I'm only interested in one person, and that's Alex. That's my only interest. Whether or not Alex genuinely believes that he can somehow communicate with the dead, the phrasing and tone of his retort, as well as the fact that he's bringing this up unprompted in a serious murder investigation, arguably betrays his intent to be defiant. He doesn't want to roll over just yet. Detectives have to, once again, do their best to get him on track. So clearly you perceive Cujo as a threat to your family. There was a point in time where a decision was made by you that this has got to stop. This is going to end right here. There's two things I don't know. Is it something that was a spontaneous because of something that you did, or is it something that you said, this is how I'm going to fix this problem, with a spontaneous? I look at it as this. Cujo, when he started doing the things that he did, started moving from house to house, and I knew that he was silent. And his personality, just based on his character analysis that I was conducting, I was like, something is about to go. And I knew that it was my family. And by then, I just played some music and went to work. I know what you mean by you went to work, but I need you to explain to me how you went to work. You've been able to see that tape recorder. After hours of grueling investigation and interrogations, Alex is finally willing to give up the details of this crime. However, no one was prepared for the depths of his depravity, nor the stomach-churning reality of what happened to Cujo Codier. It seems the officers take Alex outside for a cigarette and continue recording the audio of his disturbing confession. Where did Cujo go? You're not going to find him. Can you tell me? I'll get that right to you. What? Okay, where is he? He's right under your nose. Not at the police station, I hope. No. Okay, where? Well, why is he in my stomach? He's in your what? In your stomach? As startling as this admission is, Alex isn't done with the horrifying reveals. When did that happen? Yesterday. Yesterday? Did. All their body parts, are they? Can you give me an idea where they are? I don't know. You might find them. Did you put some of the rest of the body? What? Is it the rest of the body itself, or did you just cut out some parts of it? Some of it's dissected. That's dissected? Yeah. What charges? What charges am I facing right now? I'm already facing 30 years. So, what charges would I be facing? What charges would you be facing? Well, you're telling me you took his life, yes? Okay, so, I'm asking, and it was rhetorical. I shouldn't have said that. Did you take his life? He's not in existence. Okay, I could have helped him fake his death. Well, obviously, that would be murder charges. You're a smart guy. You know what they're basically going to make. If you can tell me, are there pieces of Cujo within and around here, in or around your house? Excuse me, is that a yes? You're looking for his head? Yes. And his head is taken care of. Is it? Is he? How is it taken care of? Can you tell me any more about that? His head is. Do you have anybody at the house right now? Can you get him on the phone? Sure. Through the phone, Alex guides the officer to his gruesome leftovers. Okay, go to the dining room. Okay, there's a big cabinet, a white cabinet. It has like glass shelves on it. You see the white shelves? Now go to the bottom. Move the box of books over there. At the bottom of the cabinet, move the boxes and open them. Open one of the shelves. Do you see a bag of charcoal? Go ahead and open it. Do you see it? Yeah. What is this inside the bag? What is that? That's what we're looking for. That's the only part. After recovering Cujo's severed hands and head, the officers were set on retrieving the rest of his remains. Alex revealed that he disposed of it in the dumpster of a nearby church, and went so far as to brag that the chances of recovering it were slim to none. However, when officers investigated the dumpster for themselves, they discovered 2 duffel bags inside, infested with maggots. As they tried to remove one of the bags, it tore, and the officers were forced to watch in silent horror as Cujo's torso slid out and hit the pavement. I just wanted to, before we were at the top, Alex was telling me, I'm just gonna put the same report on the table, okay? I'll just shoot it. Alex, if you can, since Tom wasn't sitting here just a second ago, just run through that with what you're telling the other detectives. Alex begins eagerly recounting a story so disgusting and despicable. It far outshines everything the detectives have learned thus far. Alex no longer has anything to hide, and as a consequence, he he finally discusses in detail what happened the night he slaughtered Cujo. And it's more horrifying than anyone imagined. It's that night, after everything took place. We didn't argue anything, but I did tell him. I'm not going to speak about anything. A cannibalism, was more so about him being. I asked him if he knows about cannibals, and he said he's a real man. He'd find out. So I asked him, is he ready to die? And he was like, no, he's not ready to die. So I made the angel of death. And then what did you do, Alex? Well, that night, I know you was into gospel. I know you've been in trouble. Play some gospel music. And then you would smirk at me. Okay, man. I stood over him. Went to work with the arm. Took the axe. And just went to work on his head. Hit him well. Twice. And then after that, I let him bleed out. And then I took his heart out. After I took his heart out, I just cut him in half. Cut him off. How did you get the parts outside? Just walk. Did you bump into anything? She wrapped him up in a bag. And took him, where? To the church. Any particular reason to go to the church? Was there any particular reason that you did that? I had some bother. There was an issue with your brother. Find him. Some things tell me about that. He found what he found. He doesn't know himself, but he's smart enough. Like you are when you're smart. Not that smart, but he doesn't know the circumstances behind it, because sometimes his judgment calls him. He may not have seen because when I'm not around, he's the second, at least say the second in charge. And if he can't recognize it, that's on his own family. What is he going to do? What do you think should happen to you for this? Put me in a scene, it's not. Are you in a scene? No, I'm not. I want to look. The action, that didn't make me look insane. It's what society. But basically what I do is an ancient rite of getting rid of honor. Let's go. And that's the way you look at it. Good job. That's ancient justice. Though Alex may be basking in his crime, he seems lucid and afraid of punishment enough to minimize his own sentence by recommending he be remanded to a psychiatric facility. Even with everything he's revealed so far, Alex still had one last sickening detail to share. And again, I'm just trying to understand. This was totally symbolic on your part. You were cooking his head and hands. You removed his hands from his body so that they could not touch anyone anymore. I guess his head disgusted you, and you wanted to deform the head, cook away the hands, eat some of them, and you ate his heart. That's when he thought that he ate his head. I tasted some of it. It tastes a little bit like the principle of the U.S. West. Did you use a barbecue sauce? Yes. It's just like small bits of sea salt. How do you feel now? Justice is served. That's how it will be. As sickening as this reveal is, it also could potentially answer one of the remaining questions. The police brought cadaver dogs to the Kenua home, and they did not indicate that there were any human remains. And yet, Alex had butchered and eaten parts of Cujo in the home, and he had a blood-covered mattress in his room. The reason the dogs didn't pick up on the scent could be due to the dog's training and experience, as well as the training and expertise of the handler. If a dog is not well trained, or if the dog is being used in a situation for which it is not trained, such as live detection versus human remains detection, the dog is likely to fail. It's also important to note that by cooking and seasoning the body parts, much of the scent of the remains was destroyed. The dogs look for things like skin cells, and cooking would destroy them, potentially throwing off the dog's ability to detect the remains. However, alone, spices and cooking will not prevent a properly trained dog and handler team from finding human remains. After nearly 6 hours total of interrogation, detectives may just now be meeting the real Alex Kenua. It's a very beautiful day. No matter what the mission, it's always coming back. It's always the mission is first. No, the skulls are getting cracked. No, the skulls are getting extracted. Their brains are getting extracted. You know what happens when skulls get extracted? Their brains get sucked out of their noses. And I'm gone. Please believe. The whole record. Following his confession, Alexander Kenua was charged with first-degree murder and weapon carrying. Prior to a trial, he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and in August of 2013, he pleaded guilty but not criminally responsible. He was then indefinitely remanded to a state psychiatric facility. Though he was deemed unfit to stand trial, it is possible that he could be deemed competent in the future. Alex also pleaded guilty but not criminally responsible for the assault of Joshua Caesar. Case 3. Colorado in February of 2008. investigators uncover a twisted tale of cults, devil worship, and cannibalism, hinting that their missing man may be a dangerous figure with a horrifying past. As the investigation unfolds, detectives uncover a shocking twist about the suspect and their dark plots, but nothing prepares them for the revelation of the suspect's true motive. On April 28, 2008, Detective Cox with the Montezuma County Sheriff's Office responds to a missing persons report from a man named Jim about his brother, 41-year-old Jack Barry, who had not been seen since late February. Jack's mother Sandra reveals that his son, Jeremiah, confided in her with horrifying information. Detectives bring Jeremiah to the station, determined to uncover the truth about what really happened to his father, Jack. Little do they know their investigation will plunge them into a labyrinth of horrors and expose a shocking history. Any and all claims made by individual witnesses, in this case, have not been verified and represent only the opinions of those providing their personal accounts. The following footage has never been seen before. Okay, he does this all the time. Okay, if you were to guess over the period of your life, how many times do you think this has happened? Where your dads just kind of disappear up and disappear? 9 times. He always creates some kind of incident and then a lie to go with it. Like last time he said that he got lost in a canyon and couldn't find his way out, and then he broke his leg. I don't think that okay. He'll just come up with things. Jeremiah's grandmother, Sandra, describes her son, Jack, as a paranoid schizophrenic who is severely delusional, adding that this is strictly her opinion and not an official diagnosis. If you have any knowledge about why your dad's missing or anything like that, you should tell me now. Do you have any knowledge of why your dad's missing? No. Okay. Do you know where he's at right now? Montana, I think. I don't know. So you believe him to be in Montana right now? Yeah. Okay. What makes you believe that? Because that's usually where he goes to kind of get away, and he has a cabin up in the woods up there. Okay. And he'll go and trap and stuff. So he has a cabin in Montana? Yeah. You ever been to his cabin in Montana? No. Or I don't know if he has. See, I don't know because I haven't been there, but he tells me he has a cabin. Okay. Do you believe him? Yeah. Because he likes outdoors and the hunting and trapping. He's taught me how to trap. So most likely, yeah. That. And he's also was talking about how he wanted to become border control, not border control, a ranger or something up on the Canadian border. He talked about that for a while, but I don't know. He kind of just goes where he wants. Okay. So like we've kind of established, this probably isn't the first time anything like this has happened then, right? No. This is the first time anybody's called and said that he was missing. Okay. Why do you think somebody would call and say he's missing? I have no idea. The only person that would care would be my grandmother. When Jeremiah's grandmother, Sandra, was interviewed, she admitted that it wasn't uncommon for Jack to frequently leave quickly without explanation. However, Jeremiah told her a different story than the one he told detectives, claiming his father left for Utah with an unknown woman. Sandra began to believe he wasn't telling the whole truth, her suspicion growing when Jeremiah ominously said he needed to tell her something. But if he did, she would not want him to visit her in Arizona. Sandra's statements hinted that Jeremiah knows exactly what happened to Jack, leaving detectives with the challenging job of uncovering the whole truth. Did you know him to have any girlfriends, or is there anybody he would travel with that would come get him? Yeah, but I don't know her name. So that really doesn't help. Have you ever seen her? Yeah. What's she look like? She's from Utah. She's tall, skinny, about hair up to hair, black hair. And she has like a new Dodge Ram, and it's like a blue color. And I said, that's the only person that I've ever seen him drive off with or go with. But he came back. Where did you see that? That was when I was at the orchard. The orchard is the name given to a sprawling expanse of apple trees, just north of the Ute Mountain Reservation in Colorado, where Jack had been living in his trailer. They would later search his trailer for clues to his disappearance, unaware of the strange and bizarre discoveries that would await them inside. In the meantime, though Jeremiah doesn't know the name of the alleged girlfriend, his sister Rachel does. She identifies her as Joey and shocks investigators with the claim that Jack killed both Joey and her son Brandon. The startling allegation leaves investigators scrambling to locate Joey to confirm her safety. As Jeremiah continues, he suddenly turns the topic into a strange new direction. He was trying to work at the Excelsior plant. He was trying to work there for a while. But then he started thinking that people were going to throw him into the machines and chop him up. Why would he think that? Because he's crazy. When you say crazy, how do you mean? Like he hears voices. God talks to him. What does God say to him? Lots of things. God sometimes tells him to kill people. I don't think he's done it. I hope anyways. And that God says that the government's after him. And so there's wires everywhere. He thinks like everybody's wearing wire. While these behaviors are concerning, they do little to explain where Jack may have gone, forcing the detective to bring the conversation back to his last known whereabouts. You said earlier that you had last seen him in February. When was that in February again? I really don't know. Like when? Approximately. Like the 23rd. So around the 23rd was the last time you saw him. Yeah. And he was where at? At the orchard. And then he was gonna go check on a job. And then he left, and then he came back. And then I was out with the sheep. And when I got back, he was gone. And I haven't seen him since. So just over the course of one day, you saw him that morning, and then he was gone by that night. And how did you know he was gone? I mean, the fact that he wasn't physically there, did he take things with him or what? No, but he had his, or he took his clothes and stuff. But the dog, he left his dog there. Would that be abnormal for him? Usually he comes back for his dogs. Because usually he has hound dogs, and he'll leave them for a while, and then he comes back. This time he just hasn't come back. But it hasn't been that long. Usually it can be gone 4 months before he'll come and get his dogs. Investigators would soon speak with 55-year-old Elizabeth, the owner of the orchard and a nearby business and residence referred to as the Dog Hotel. According to her statement, Jeremiah lived with her at the Dog Hotel, where they shared a room for approximately 6 months prior to Jack's disappearance. She described Jack as a terrible person and a freeloader. She claimed he butchered her livestock, once roasting them whole over an open fire. Elizabeth recalls one harrowing incident in late 2007 where Jack went off the deep end, threatening to kill his daughter, Rebecca, along with her husband and their children. Officers further note in the report that these violent threats led Elizabeth to consider shooting Jack. Whether she or someone else enacted this dark plan remains to be seen. For now, with Jack still missing, the priority remains locating him as quickly as possible. You know, we're trying to figure out where he's at and why nobody seems to have heard from him for months now. I don't know why he has a girlfriend. So no, I don't spend on that a little bit. I just know he has a girlfriend because that's always where he is making more kids. According to Jeremiah's mother, Rita, Jack has as many as 13 children with his 4 former wives and girlfriends. So the day that you went out to tend the sheep, around February 23rd or so, snowing then, snow on the ground, what? So how did he hoof it out? Did he hoof it out of there on foot or? No, somebody would have had to pick him up because there wasn't enough. Are you thinking that, lady? Did he say, hey, I'm probably be gone shortly, somebody's coming to pick me up? He doesn't say things like that. That's not his thing. He just up and leaves. Kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing? Yeah, and it's all of a sudden. God tells him he needs to go somewhere else to do God's work, and he's gone. As detectives begin probing for more information about Jeremiah's relationship with Jack, they'll soon uncover unsettling patterns of behavior that only begin to scratch the surface of a deeply disturbing past. How was your relationship with your dad? We get along. Did you guys argue much or? No, because before that, I didn't really talk to him. I didn't see him for maybe 5 years before that, because I lived with him in Colorado Springs, and then him and my stepmother got a divorce and she left, and so then I came back with my mother. I wouldn't say we're friends, but we're not enemies. Because he's really not a father, because he just kind of comes and goes. So it's kind of like an uncle. So you don't have that fatherly attachment to him? No, I don't think any of us do. Does it hurt your feelings that he's just up and disappeared? Does it make you wonder? No, because I'm used to him doing this. Honestly, this isn't shocking at all. It's like he's always leaving. So it doesn't make you feel bad? No. However, troubling statements from Jeremiah's mother Rita, along with unsettling remarks from Jack's children Rebecca and Josh, would soon point to a far more horrifying reason for their detachment. Had you and your dad ever been, or did you know of your dad getting in fights and arguments with your family here in town? Oh yes. Tell me a little bit about that. He got in a fight with my sister Rebecca because he told her that these Christian people paid her to wear a wire to record him, and then that same day he got in a fight with her, and then when he came back then he threatened to kill. He threatened to kill my mother, my brother Johnny, my sister Rachel, my nephews and my sister Rebecca, and leave me and my brother Josh alive. Did you think he was serious about that? Yes and no. It was more of a bluff. It was like he was just angry that, and because he's crazy, he just goes off and leaves, and that's really when that's when he decided, I think that's when he left. Whether or not he truly left remains to be seen. However, with the disturbing claims given to detectives by Jim and Sandra, the truth may turn out to be far more sinister. When your dad threatened to kill your brothers and sisters in the mountain, how'd that make you feel? Did it make you mad? Of course. I think it would make anybody mad, but it did make me mad, but I didn't think he was going to do it. Let me ask you this in your heart of hearts. Would you believe that your dad would have killed them, or could have killed them? No, I don't think he would have killed them. Maybe my mother, but not the kids. I don't think. Why do you say your mom? My dad hates my mother. My dad cannot stand my mother, but because he says that she's a whore and that none of us are really his kids, but he thinks that I'm his kid and my brother Josh. Jeremiah's mother, brother and sister would each share deeply disturbing allegations in their interviews with investigators. Jeremiah's mother Rita described a gut-wrenching history of violence at the hands of Jack, alleging that he would regularly beat and assault her even while she was pregnant. We've kind of got a picture of who your dad was. Okay, let me ask you this. Did your dad ever abuse you kids? Yeah. Like how? Physically, mentally. He abused almost all of us. Like he would make fun of you and make fun of all of us, and he'd beat the crap out of all of us. Or no, actually, that's not true. He would beat the other kids, but he would beat the crap out of me. You were some of them. Yeah, usually, but that was also because I was the oldest, and he was our only blocker then though, because when he left most of the kids were still a little young. Josh and Rachel would substantiate these claims, adding that Rachel and Jeremiah had each experienced further more appalling forms of violence from Jack. These terrifying allegations are only the beginning as deeper, more chilling secrets from Jack's past continue clawing to the surface. Still, Jack remains missing, and despite the harrowing revelations, none of it points to what may have happened to him. You described your dad several times as crazy as could be. A lot of times that stuff runs in the family. Believe me, I know. Did any of that get over into you? I mean, do you have problems with anything, hearing voices or anything? How about his parents, his mother, his father? Were you one of them? His father was crazy too. According to Sandra, Jack's father, Jack Keisling, also known as Reverend Whitehorse, had a bone-chilling history of violence. She claims he led a devil-worshipping cult in New Mexico near Silver City in 1986. Police did confirm there were unsubstantiated rumors of devil worship in the area in the 1980s, but no specific information regarding Keisling or Reverend Whitehorse was found. The harrowing discoveries made in Jack's trailer at the orchard revealed that perhaps he was equally fascinated with dark energies just like his father. Meanwhile, Jack's shocking history takes a dark and twisted turn as Jeremiah's sudden admission brings horrifying new implications for their missing subject. They thought he was a cannibal too. I'm sorry? They thought he was? No, he was. He was. How do you know this? Because he made me eat people. Who did he make you eat? Tech Mexicans that were illegal. And who killed them? He did. Where was this at? All over the place. Carver Springs, Arizona. At what age were you when that was going on? Before they put me in CPH, so like I can remember from like 6 and onwards. You actually saw him killing these people? Yes, because he thought I should help him. How many would you estimate there were? 13. 13, you're pretty definite about that. Yeah, because I can remember him. Josh, Jeremiah's younger brother, recalled seeing human arms and legs in the refrigerator as a child, elaborating on one horrifying incident in which he discovered a human hand with painted fingernails and a large diamond ring. What he says his dad did with the remains would be enough to ruin anyone's appetite. In Jack's trailer, demonic altars, rotting skulls, and scattered animal bones were discovered. Police would also search the dog hotel where Jeremiah resided. No clues pointed to what may have happened to Jack, but several deeply unsettling discoveries were made. In the bathroom, investigators found a glass jar with a pill bottle suspended in a strange liquid. Within the bottle was a dark substance which emitted an extremely foul odor when opened. The jar was seized by police, though the substance was never identified. Detectives also located several journals belonging to Jeremiah,